Nashville had a formula: polished strings, safe lyrics, producers who told you exactly how to sound. These 10 artists were told no, by executives, by radio, by the entire industry, and they became legends anyway, on their own terms. Number 1. Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues, live version, 1968. By 1967, Johnny Cash's career was falling apart. Years of addiction had drained his popularity, and Columbia Records was putting its real promotional muscle behind pop stars, not a fading country singer with a drug problem. When I was just a baby. So when Cash pitched the idea of recording a live album inside an actual prison, the label barely blinked. They gave it almost no promotional budget. They didn't expect much. On January 13, 1968, Cash walked into Folsom State Prison in California and recorded 2 live shows in front of an audience of convicts. The resulting album, At Folsom Prison, didn't just revive his career. It became one of the most significant records in American music history, shooting to number 1 on the country album chart. I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy diner. But Cash's defiance didn't stop there. A few months after release, Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and radio stations began yanking the single because of its most famous line, "No, I can't be free. I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." Columbia's response was to order the line edited out entirely. Cash protested. He didn't want the song compromised. The label overruled him anyway and re-released a censored version. And that's what tortures me. Cash never got that fight back, but the album that almost didn't get made, that the label barely believed in, went on to be inducted into the National Recording Registry as one of the most culturally significant recordings in American history. Move it on a little farther down the line. Number 2. Willie Nelson, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, from Red-Headed Stranger, 1975. By the early 1970s, Willie Nelson had already written massive hits for other singers. Crazy for Patsy Cline, Hello Walls for Farron Young. But RCA kept smothering his own records in the heavily produced strings and choirs of the so-called Nashville sound. Frustrated, broke, and watching his own ranch burn to the ground, I knew we'd never meet. Nelson quit Nashville entirely, moved back to Austin, Texas, and refused to renew his RCA contract. When he signed with Columbia Records in 1975, he negotiated something almost no country artist had ever been given: total creative control. He used it to record Red-Headed Stranger, a stark concept album built around little more than his own guitar, piano, and drums. When Nelson's manager played the finished tapes for Columbia's president, Bruce Lundvall, the executive genuinely thought he was listening to an unfinished demo. It sounded, in his words, like it had been recorded in someone's living room. As the story goes, Waylon Jennings, sitting right there in the room, stood up and told the label flatly, "That's what Willie's all about." Columbia released it as is. I remember. The album's lead single, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, became Willie Nelson's first ever #1 hit as a singer, after more than a decade in the business, and Red-Headed Stranger is now widely regarded as one of the greatest country albums ever made, proof that stripping everything away was the boldest move of his career.
Love country music and the stories behind the legends? Subscribe to the Country Files, hit the notification bell, and join us for more unforgettable country music documentaries. Thanks for watching.
Number 3. Waylon Jennings, Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way? 1975. Waylon Jennings spent the late 1960s trapped in a system he despised. RCA assigned him songs he hadn't written, brought in studio musicians he'd never met, and shaped his records without ever really consulting him.
Son, you finally got it made. Old Hank.
He was playing 300 dates a year, buried in debt, and getting sicker by the month. In 1972, exhausted and hospitalized with hepatitis,
Really do it this way. Yeah.
Jennings made a decision that would change country music. He hired a combative New York manager named Neil Reshen and told him to get him out from under RCA's thumb, one way or another. What Reshen negotiated was unheard of: full creative control, the right to use his own touring band in the studio, the right to produce his own records. RCA didn't hand it over easily. During one especially tense session,
Backside of me. Singing my
Jennings reportedly grew so frustrated with a producer's restrictions that he brought a gun into the studio and threatened to shoot the fingers off anyone who played an unwanted note. Once he had full control, Jennings released a run of albums that became the foundation of outlaw country.
got it this way. No. Don't think Hank to
And by 1975, he was taking direct aim at the very system he'd escaped. "Are you sure Hank done it this way?" A pointed jab at Nashville's rhinestone suits and manufactured sound became his sixth #1 single and one of his signature songs, proof that the fight for control had been worth every threat he had to make to win it. Number 4. Loretta Lynn, The Pill, 1975. Loretta Lynn had 4 kids by the time she was 18. When she recorded The Pill, a song celebrating a wife's newfound freedom from birth control, her label was so nervous about the subject matter that they sat on the recording for 3 full years before finally releasing it in 1975. Their fears turned out to be justified, and then some. More than 60 country radio stations across America refused to play it.
You're bringing a few old army buddies home? You're calling from a bar? Get away!
A preacher in Kentucky devoted an entire sermon to denouncing Loretta Lynn by name. The Grand Ole Opry held a 3-hour meeting internally, debating whether to stop her from performing the song live on their stage.
Honey, could you stop at the market? Hello?
Lynn sang it anyway, 3 times in one night, in fact, at the Opry, before she even found out about the meeting that had almost banned her. "If they hadn't let me sing the song," she said afterward, "I'd have told them to shove the Grand Ole Opry."
Needs a hugging, Lord. Boys on the way.
The controversy didn't sink the record. It launched it. Fans who couldn't hear it on the radio went out and bought it instead, and The Pill became the highest charting pop single of Lynn's entire career, all built on a song 60-plus radio stations had tried to bury.
This old world is a bed and a doctor bill.
Across her career, Lynn had 14 different songs banned from country radio altogether, and she said, more than once, that every single ban just sold her a few more records.
Oh, but Daddy, don't you worry now.
Number 5. Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You, 1974.
I know that I'll think of.
By 1974, Dolly Parton had spent 7 years as Porter Wagoner's featured singer, a career-making partnership, but one where Wagoner controlled almost everything. When Parton finally decided to strike out on her own, she didn't know how to tell him, so she did what she always did. She wrote a song.
Love you.
She brought it to Wagoner the next morning and sang it to him directly. He cried. Then he told her she could go, on one condition, that he got to produce the record. She agreed, and I Will Always Love You became her farewell gift to the man who discovered her.
Please, don't you cry.
A few years later, Elvis Presley wanted to record his own version. Parton was thrilled, until his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, informed her that recording an Elvis version required signing over half of the song's publishing rights.
You need.
as was standard practice at the time. Parton said no. She cried all night over the decision, certain she'd just turned down Elvis Presley himself. Nearly 2 decades later, that refusal paid off in a way she never could have predicted.
And I hope that you have all.
Whitney Houston recorded the song for The Bodyguard in 1992, and because Parton had kept full ownership, the songwriting royalties alone were enough, in her own words, to buy Graceland.
You ever dreamed of? Oh,
A defiant decision made out of loyalty to a man in Nashville quietly turned into one of the most lucrative choices in music publishing history. Number 6. Merle Haggard, Mama Tried, 1968.
Dad's shoulders low.
Merle Haggard's outlaw credentials weren't a marketing image. They were his actual biography. At 20 years old, he was serving time in San Quentin State Prison for attempted burglary and escape, and he turned 21 behind bars.
They do it for a living because...
On New Year's Day, 1959, he was sitting in the audience as an inmate when Johnny Cash performed live at the prison. Watching Cash, chewing gum, mocking the guards, owning the entire room.
Child from a family meek and mild, my mama...
Haggard later said it was the moment he decided to actually pursue music seriously instead of crime. He was paroled in 1960, and by 1972, California Governor Ronald Reagan granted him a full, unconditional pardon for his past.
Seemed to know what lay in store.
But Haggard's defiance of the industry didn't stop once he'd gone straight. After the massive success of Okie from Muskogee, his label wanted him to keep leaning into a safe, patriotic image. So when Haggard wanted to release Irma Jackson, a song about an interracial relationship,
But her pleading I denied, it leaves only me.
Capitol Records executives were reportedly appalled and refused to let it be his next single. Haggard pushed back on the label's attempt to box him in for years afterward. His signature autobiographical song, Mama Tried, a direct account of his own imprisonment and his mother's heartbreak, became one of his 38 #1 hits and one of the most covered country songs of all time. Proof that his refusal to be sanitized became his greatest asset.
Have the best. She tried to raise me right, but I refused.
Number 7. Kris Kristofferson, Sunday Mornin' Comin' Down, as performed by Johnny Cash, 1970.
Then I fumbled in my closet through my...
Kris Kristofferson had every reason to take the safe path. He was a Rhodes Scholar with a master's degree from Oxford, a U.S. Army captain who was offered a teaching position at West Point, a golden ticket to a stable, respected career. He turned it down to move to Nashville and write songs, and for years that decision looked like a mistake. He worked as a janitor sweeping floors at Columbia Records recording studio, pitching every song he wrote to anyone who'd listen, including Johnny Cash,
Then I crossed the empty street.
who he'd occasionally run into on the job. When Cash finally recorded Sunday Mornin' Comin' Down, a raw, unglamorous song about a hungover man wandering a lonely city on a Sunday, network television executives got nervous about one specific line.
And caught the sunny smell of someone frying.
Wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. They ordered Cash to change it for his broadcast performance. Cash refused, and sang the original line live on air anyway. The performance won the Country Music Association's Song of the Year in 1970.
Lord, it took me back to something.
For Kristofferson, the song didn't just mark his breakthrough. He later said it was the song that, in his words, finally let him quit working for a living. A janitor who refused to give up on songwriting
And there's nothing short of dying.
ended up handing Johnny Cash the exact line the network wanted erased, and Cash refused to erase it.
Had a can that he was kicking.
Number 8. Shania Twain, Any Man of Mine, 1995. Before Shania Twain became the best-selling female country artist in history, Her own record label tried to talk her out of the sound that would make her famous. As she later recalled, Mercury Records warned her directly that she'd be, in her words, hated by the men for being too forceful and opinionated, and hated by the women for being too sensually expressive. It was meant as a warning. Twain didn't believe it and went ahead with the album anyway, a country rock hybrid produced by her then-husband, Mutt Lange, built with the same arena-sized instincts he'd used on AC/DC and Def Leppard records. She also broke another unwritten industry rule. She refused to tour behind the album at all, choosing instead to focus entirely on the songwriting rather than exhausting herself on the road doing cover songs for a living, as she had for years before getting her deal. Critics questioned whether she could even sing live. The label's predicted backlash never came. The Woman in Me produced 4 #1 country singles, including Any Man of Mine, and went on to sell more than 20 million copies worldwide, eventually earning diamond certification in the United States. The album that her own label warned her would alienate half her audience ended up redefining what a mainstream country record could sound like for the next 2 decades. Number 9. Kris Stapleton, Tennessee Whiskey, 2015. For over a decade before anyone knew his name as a performer, Kris Stapleton was one of Nashville's most successful anonymous songwriters. He'd written #1 hits for Kenny Chesney, Josh Turner, and George Strait, all while barely registering as a public figure himself. When he finally released his own debut album, Traveler, in 2015, mainstream country radio largely ignored it. His cover of the 1980s song Tennessee Whiskey, which he'd started singing on a whim during a sound check, wasn't even officially released as a radio single. His own label didn't believe in it enough to push it. Then came November 4th, 2015. Stapleton performed Tennessee Whiskey as a duet with Justin Timberlake at the CMA Awards, and the performance stopped the room. Critics who'd never covered country music before called it one of the best moments of the entire broadcast. Within 2 days, based purely on the strength of that single performance and the sales and streams it triggered, Tennessee Whiskey shot to #1 on the Billboard country chart, a song his own record label hadn't believed was worth releasing as a single in the first place. It's since been certified multiple times platinum and is now considered one of the defining country recordings of the 2010s, proof that sometimes the audience decides what's a hit long after the label has already decided it isn't. Number 10. Tanya Tucker, Bring My Flowers Now, 2019. Tanya Tucker was 13 years old when Delta Dawn made her a star in 1972, one of the rare child country performers who actually managed to keep an audience into adulthood. Over the next 4 decades, she racked up hit after hit and 14 separate Grammy nominations. She never won a single one. By her 60s, after years of the industry quietly writing her off as a relic, an unspoken bias, she'd later say, tends to sideline women in country music as they age.
And rainbows and babies.
While male legends just get called legendary, Tucker hadn't released an album of original material in 17 years. Then, in 2018, 2 of her biggest fans decided to fix that. Shooter Jennings, the son of Outlaw legend Waylon Jennings,
And the little things I cherish.
recruited singer-songwriter Brandi Carlile to write and produce a new album with Tucker. Tucker almost walked away days before recording even began, telling Jennings the new song simply didn't sound like her. He talked her back into the studio.
And even though one day Bill Berry.
One of the songs that came out of those sessions, co-written with Carlile, was Bring My Flowers Now, a stark, aching reflection on wanting love and appreciation while you're still alive to receive it. In January 2020, at 61 years old,
My old breakfast spotted.
48 years after her very first Grammy nomination, Tanya Tucker finally won, not one, but 2 Grammy Awards in a single night. An industry that had spent decades treating her like yesterday's news had to watch her collect the trophy it took nearly half a century to hand her.
Bright, and they will never strike again.